is Craig Breedlove. On 4 separate occasions, he broke the world's land speed record. His wife, Lee Breedlove, has just broken the women's land speed record. What is your name, please?
My name is Lee Breedlove.
My name is Lee Breedlove.
My name is Lee Breedlove.
Only one of these ladies is the real Lee Breedlove. The other 2 are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, and Kitty Carlisle on To Tell the Truth. To Tell the Truth is brought to you by Suppose Stockings, the beautifully sheer stockings that look as good as they feel. And now, here's your host, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much. Welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Good evening, pal.
Good evening.
That's what sets me off. All right, open up your envelope there, if you will, please, and follow along with me as I read you this first story. I, Lee Breedlove, was fascinated with automobile racing even before I met my husband, Craig, at a drag strip. For the past 5 weeks, I have been at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah making sandwiches and coffee for Craig and his crew as they prepared for his successful attempt to break the world's land speed record. The day after his run, Craig asked me if I would like to take a crack at breaking the women's record. I said yes. Craig gave me a quick checkout, and the following morning I climbed into the cockpit of his jet-powered Spirit of America, and in 2 runs through the measured mile, averaged better than 308 miles an hour. This set a new women's land speed record. Until I made that record-breaking run, I had never driven anything more demanding than our family car.
Oh.
Signed, Lee Breedlove. So, panel, these 3 ladies all claim to be Lee Breedlove. We'll start the questioning with Orson Bean. Orson?
Thank you, but well, whoever you are, you're the fastest couple in town. Number 3, what is the speed that your husband drove the car?
555.
Number 3, do you believe that a land vehicle will ever break the sound barrier?
Oh, yes.
What is the sound barrier? What is the speed of sound?
Well, it varies on the altitude, but 750.
Number 1, do you agree that it's possible?
Yeah.
You don't think the car would just vibrate to pieces?
No.
All right. Number 2, in drag strip talk, what does it mean when you shut down another car? If I shut you down, what do I do to you?
Well, that would mean getting ahead of him and leaving him no room to pass you.
Kitty Carlisle.
It's fantastic. Number 2, how did you feel at that speed?
Well, I really didn't have too much time to think about the speed at that point. I was too interested in trying to keep it going where it should.
Number 1, what does jet-powered mean?
It's, thrust.
By what?
By a jet engine.
Number 3, does your husband have a mechanic that helps him?
Oh, yes, there's a big...
Were you driving alone?
Oh, yeah.
Number 2, what gave your husband the idea that you would like to do this?
Well, I don't know what gave him the idea, but he just came out of the blue and said, would you like to try it? And I said yes.
Number 1, had you ever driven this car before?
No.
Never?
No.
Number 3, does it have many gear shifts?
Tom Poston.
Yeah, number 3, does it have any gear shift?
No.
Just a direct thing. And number 1, how big is the car, the car that you and your husband drove?
It's 34 foot long.
Number 2, what's to keep, for instance, somebody in a car from putting wings on the side and getting a little off the ground for the measured mile and then getting back down at the...
Well, it's happened on occasion.
I mean, does that disqualify you? How do you know you're always on... How do the officials know you're always on the ground?
Well, you have to stay within certain barriers. And there are posts at either end, and you have to enter through those posts and finish through the posts. In between, you can go wherever you want.
Off the ground, too? Oh.
Peggy Cass.
Number 3, were you scared?
Well, nervous, I think.
And number 2, did you have to watch many things on the instrument panel?
No.
No? You just kept going. Now, number 1, did you go straight or did you have to turn the corner?
You go straight.
I see. Well, listen, my dear, I consider you one of the brave Breedloves. I can't get over it. I'd be out of my mind. Number 3, is it a custom-made car?
Oh, yes.
No, you just picked it up
Well,
in the
number
corner.
2, if it had jets coming out of the back, I mean, I wouldn't think of getting anything that had jets coming out of the back. I mean, what do you know about jets if you've only driven the old family car?
Well, I knew that my husband had driven it, and so I thought I'd try.
Oh, boy.
That's all we have time for questioning. Let's mark ballots, if you will, please, as quickly as possible without any confrontation and without change once you've marked. Mark your ballots now for number 1, number 2, or number 3. And our team of challengers will, of course, receive $250 for every incorrect vote. Are all ballots marked? Very well. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 3, Bud. Something about when Kitty said, were you alone? She said, oh, yes. And I thought it was she, but I suspect that her family car maybe is capable of doing 280, 290.
Around town. Peggy Cass.
Well, I voted for number 3, too. You see, I got to look at Mr. Breedlove, and she looks like Mrs. Breedlove. She looks as though she should be married to him.
You're casting again. Orson.
I must say they're all beautiful, but I agree. I can picture Mr. Breedlove chasing Mrs. Breedlove around the house about 100 miles an hour.
And Kitty Carlisle.
Oh, I'm voting for number 1. I think number 1 has that clear-eyed, determined look, and nothing would frighten her. I can see her well off the ground at 380 miles an hour. We're not turning a hair.
Well, very well. It was very close to being unanimous. We have 3 for number 3, 1 for number 1. Craig, may we ask you to step up on stage and select your wife?
Oh, beauty pie.
Hurry it up, will you?
Thank you very much. You made Kitty a very happy woman, believe me. Craig, in your business, the competition's pretty rough, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Now, let's see. 6 days, I think it was, after you set your record of 555 miles an hour, was when Art Arfons bettered it by doing, what did he do?
576.
576.
Yes.
That would be engraved on your memory, I'll bet. Well, now, what are you going to do about it?
Well, we're going back for 600.
Are you really?
Yes.
This is success.
May I
Yes.
ask a question? What made you allow your wife to do this?
She wanted to, Kitty, and I think I thought she could do it, and I'm real proud of her.
What about the speed barrier? The sound barrier, you think, ever?
Oh, yes, it's definitely coming up.
Yeah.
Do you have children?
5.
Isn't that wonderful? All right, let's find out about the other 2 now. Number 2, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Terry Lombard, and I'm a high fashion model from San Francisco.
And number 3, you walked off with all the votes pretty nearly. What is your name and what do you do?
My name is Kay Hornaday, and I'm an art buyer for the Marshart Company.
Well, in checking the score, we find you did mighty well, believe me. Maybe it's the shape of things to come as the speed records you may be setting. There were 3 incorrect votes at 250 each. That's $750 or miles an hour, whichever way you want to look at it. And I hope it brings you great joy in retrospect as much as it does us to have had you on the show. Goodbye, and God bless you. Meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is John Ferris.
My name is John Ferris.
My name is John Ferris.
Follow along again, if you will, panel, with that next envelope. I, John Ferris, have railroad cars for hire. I have been a railroad buff since I was old enough to own model trains. 4 years ago, I bought my first old Pullman, refurbished it, and began turning my hobby into a paying proposition. I now own a fleet of 8 full-sized sleeping cars, which I rent to anybody interested in traveling in their own private railroad car. Each coach is a complete home on wheels, and some of them contain air conditioning, double beds, showers, kitchen, and dining room. My clients have included an investment club which took a trip to the New Orleans Mardi Gras, a gentleman who took his family on a long weekend to Washington and Williamsburg, and a traveling salesman who used the car as a mobile showroom for surgical instruments. The rental fee for a car is $140 a day, plus the cost of 18 round-trip tickets between any two cities in North America. Naturally, the cost includes dishes, linens, and the services of an experienced Pullman porter. Signed, John Ferris. These three gentlemen all claim to be John Ferris, as you heard. Let's start this cross-examination with Peggy Cass. Peggy?
Thank you, Bud. And number 3, how's business?
Very good.
Delighted to hear that. Number 2, how many people can be put up in your railroad car?
Can vary
Comfortably,
from...
you know, not jammed luxuriously the way you planned it.
Can vary from anywhere from 14 to 20.
20? But then wouldn't they all be stuck in little bunks if there were 20?
Accommodations would be smaller for 20 than they would for 14.
Thank you. Now, number 1, in your railroad car, say I got this grand railroad car, could I route myself all around the United States any old which way I wanted to?
Yes, ma'am.
And could I do it from here to Los Angeles for the price of 18 round-trip tickets?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, if I wanted to go up to Banff, could I go to Banff on it, too?
Yes, ma'am.
That's pretty cheap. That's pretty good.
When are you leaving? Orson Bean.
I haven't got the price.
Banff?
Banff, like Louise Jasper Banff.
Louise Jasper Banff.
That's right.
Who would go to Louise Jasper Banff?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Is it? Never heard of it. Number 3, did Gleason rent a thing from you? Jackie Gleason, when he went to Miami in that fabulous car of his?
No, he did not.
Do you know what way he got his?
No, I do not.
Number 1, does he own his own, Jackie Gleason?
I don't believe he does.
He has a very fancy railroad car he goes around in.
He loves railroading.
I guess
very much.
CBS bought it for him. Number 1, I've always wanted to bring back the Zeppelin. If I had $1 million, I can see a fleet of luxury Zeppelins for people that are not in a big hurry and want time to move around. I can see by your eyes you don't want to go into business with me. Number 2. Oh,
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 2, how many people own their own railroad cars today? They were very popular at the turn of the century, I know.
I would say between 15 and 20 to my knowledge.
Number 3, do the railroad companies object to hooking on your own railroad car, or do they do it as a normal, in the normal course of business?
It's good business for them.
They don't mind it. Number 1, if you have this glorious private car, can you cook in your own car?
On some cars.
You don't have to go to the sort of dirty old dining room that everybody else goes to.
Once royalty, always.
Number 2, where did you buy your car from?
Well, I have my own car and 7 others.
But where did you buy it?
Well, I bought this one from Dallas, from the Southern Pacific.
Thank you.
Tom Poston.
Thank you, Bud. Number 3, how did you know it could be done?
Because I tried it.
Well, I could tell you stories. Number 3, there was... number 2, before you tried it, did you do some research and find out whether this thing was feasible or not?
Yes, I did.
Well, let me ask you, number 2, how did you find out there was a car for sale?
Well, I found out through the ICC, actually. I looked into their ledgers, and they were able to tell me.
And that's it. Time for you now to rent your own cars and mark your own ballots, if you will. And I mean mark your own because it must be without any consultation whatsoever and no changing once you have marked it. Vote now, if you will, panel, for number 1, number 2, or number 3. All ballots marked? All right, Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 2, Bud. I think it could be, honestly, any of the 3, but number 2 seemed to have facts at his fingertips when we asked him questions like that, so I took a chance and voted for him.
Peggy Cass.
Well, not me. I voted for number 3. It's like when they asked him why he climbed Mount Everest, because it's there. And he did it because I tried it. Brave. I like a 3. Look at me funny.
Where was that place you wanted to go?
Man, like Louise
Bam.
Jasper.
Bam. I don't even know what it is. A place or a person. I voted for number 2. I loved number 3's answer about I tried it. That's what'll get we'll beat the Russians to the moon with that kind of an attitude. However, I had to vote for number 2 because of his eyes. He has the eyes of a successful magnate.
Kitty.
I voted for number 2 because of his eyes, but I think he has the eyes of a dreamer.
That's what I meant to say.
I think he's the kind of young man who would
Votes are all in and the minds are made up. Excuse me, Kitty. And now let's find out which of these three gentlemen, in truth, is John Ferris. Will the real John Ferris please stand up? Thank you very much. It isn't often this panel gets skunked like that, but you did it right down the line. Number two, you got most of the votes. What is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Alan Shoemaker, and I'm a captain in the United States Air Force.
And number three, what is your real name and what do you do, sir?
My name is Roscoe Rouse. I'm Director of Libraries for the State University of New York at Stony Brook, Long Island.
There were 4 incorrect votes at $250 each for a total of $1,000, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us and hope you had as much fun as we did. Good night. God bless you. Let's meet our third team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Helge Instad.
My name is Helge Instad.
My name is Helge Instad.
Follow along again, if you will, please, panel. I, Helge Instad, am the former governor of the Norwegian island of Spitsbergen. I am also an Arctic explorer. Some years ago, I started searching for actual proof of the theory that America was discovered by the seafaring Vikings almost 500 years before Columbus set sail. Most scholars placed the land that Leif Erikson called Vinland somewhere in the New England area. My studies led me to believe that Vinland must have been in northern Newfoundland. With the aid of an old Icelandic map and other evidence, our expeditions discovered and excavated traces of building sites, including a 5-room house complete with a great hall, a primitive smithy with a stone anvil, fireplaces, and ember pits, many similar to those found in other Norse settlements. We also found a great amount of charcoal from various house sites, which radiocarbon tests dated around the year 1000 AD. Last year, we found an important household article, a tiny stone wheel that was part of a spinning device and is undeniably Norse. This past Columbus Day, a rare book dealer in the United States made headlines by announcing the discovery of an old map that adds further proof to the Vikings' ancient claim of being the first discoverers of America. Signed, Helge Instad. Panel, these three gentlemen all claim to be Helge Instad. We'll start with Tom Poston. Tom.
Oh, thank you, Bud. Number three, how do you think Mr. Erickson's trip differed from Columbus in terms of length of in distance, miles?
Well, a great deal shorter.
Uh-huh.
Because he sailed from Greenland and over to what they call Wineland.
Yes. Thank you. Number two, do you think that Erickson explored any of the North American continent beyond just the one place in Newfoundland?
Yes, I think so.
What evidence do you have to demonstrate that?
Few written evidences.
Thank you. Number one, may I ask what other evidence you went on besides this, that's mentioned in the fact sheet here? Aid of an old Icelandic map and other evidence. What were some of the other things you used to base this on?
Some charcoal discovered in Vinland, and proven that all.
Peggy Cass.
Thank you. Number three, what are the Iceland, how do I say this? Oh, when did Leif Erikson live? In what time?
In the 900s.
In the 900s.
Years, yeah.
Excuse me. Then number one, you believe that the Vikings came here before Leif Erikson?
I doubt it.
You don't?
He was the first.
Thank you. Number two, what were the houses of the what were the houses built of, the Viking houses?
Probably of wood, I guess.
Thank you. Now, number three, was there not a Norwegian settlement in the North American continent when they came, that whole settlement just disappeared?
They disappeared, yes. We don't know for sure how, but they did disappear.
Thank you.
Orson B.
Thank you. Number one, what was the relationship between Eric the Red and Leif the Lucky?
Father and son.
Who was the father?
Eric the Red.
All right. You got a gold star, number one. Number two, is it just a myth that the Vikings got all the way up into Wisconsin, or is that believed to have some validity? Yeah, number two.
It is very much discussed all the time.
But no one knows for sure?
Not for sure, no.
Number three, in the map, which I looked at very carefully, the pictures of it in the paper, there were indentations which could be the Gulf of Newfoundland, maybe, or do they correspond to actual inlets of water, or don't they?
Well,
the famous map I'm talking about that just was...
Well, as we know it today, there is no land that looks like the map, so we have to assume.
Yeah.
Might be any bay.
All right, Kitty Carlisle.
Thank you, Bud. Number two, when I was a little girl, I was taught in school that Leif Erikson was the first person to arrive in this country from Europe. So why was so much fuss made when they found this map saying that it was true?
Well, because when you were a young girl, they couldn't prove it for certain, you know.
I see. Number one, how long would the Vikings... Please. Number one, how long did the Vikings stay in that spot you found in Newfoundland?
Leif Erikson stood there for about 1 year.
Thank you.
That's it. Time for you now to mark your ballots, so mark them at once without any consultation whatsoever and without changing once you have marked. Vote now, please, panel, for number one, number two, or number three. Ballots all marked quickly. All right. Okay. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I thought it certainly could have been any of them as far as information and so forth was concerned, but number one struck me as a man who could conceivably be an explorer on his own as well as an archivist and historical researcher. So I voted for number one.
Peggy.
Well, I voted for number one because I'm sure he's a historian, you know, Rufus the Lucky and Eric the Red and all that stuff. So I voted for him.
Lucky.
Well, whatever it is. Eric the Lucky. What was it?
Orson B.
Rufus the Lucky.
Well, that's his name.
Can't take you anywhere. Well, number two should have his own show. He's wonderful, and he should be on television every week. But I voted for number one. I think he...
Well, are you joining the crowd, Kitty?
No, again, I'm the Maverick. I voted for number two because of his answer to me, and I think it's number two.
Very well. It's widely split, as it can be, with 3 for number one and 1 for number two. Okay, let's find out now. Which one of these gentlemen, in truth, is Helge Instad? Will the real Helge Instad please stand up? Good night tonight. From now on, we'll call you Maverick Carlisle. You're really doing well with it. I'd like to tell you that we have had a standing invitation to Dr. Instad for over a year to be on our show, and we are mighty fortunate that it was finally possible for him to fly over from Oslo, Norway, just to be with us on To Tell the Truth. If you're interested in the subject of the Vikings' discoveries, Dr. Instad has just written a book on his expeditions, and all his findings are included in there. It's called Westward to Vinland.
Ah, yeah.
So you'll be seeing that. Number one, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Trygve Larsen. I live in Brooklyn. I'm marinengineer with AT Spindangen Incorporated.
And number three, what is your real name and what do you do, sir?
I'm Scandinavian sales manager for Maryland Shipbuilding and Dry Dock in Baltimore, and I live on Long Island.
And your name?
Been running.
Well, in checking the score, you did mighty well. This was not a good evening for the panel, I must say, because there was only one correct vote and 3 incorrect. That's 3 times $250 for $750 total. Thank you, gentlemen. I hope you had as much pleasure in this evening as we did. Good night, and God bless you. Time for tonight. Good night, panel.
Good night, Bob.
Good night to all of you. See you next week. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon, the daytime show. In the meantime, don't forget to tell the truth. Bye.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Trotman production.